So tonight we're going to discuss some of the most despicable behaviors of ICE and ICE impersonators, Trump's latest comments on Renee Nicole Good's killing and what he says justifies it, and the response and outpouring of support for Renee. And then our guest speaker, Linda from We Keep Us Safe, will give you actions you can take to turn your anger into a positive impact for our immigrant friends and neighbors and tell you about how they do that through We Keep Us Safe Colorado. Last week, Indivisible, Move On, 5051, the ACLU, Public Citizen, and a broad coalition of progressive groups called for ICE Out for Good protests across the country. By Monday, there were over 1,200 protests in all 50 states and DC. Even though protesters were incredibly angry about the murder of Renee Nicole Good, the protests were completely nonviolent because we refused to give the administration a reason to invoke the Insurrection Act. On Saturday, Solidarity Warriors and Colorado Bridge Trolls hosted an overpass protest at the Highlands Bridge. We had 400 people and ended up spanning both Highlands Bridge and the 15th Street overpass that you can see across from it. One of the most powerful signs I saw said, "Jonathan Ross, she wasn't mad at you, but we are." So let me put a couple of links in the chat with photos and videos of the protests and a really cool 3-minute montage that our volunteer Sean put together. At the bridge protest, we played modern protest music like Ice Cube's Arrest the President and all sorts of other songs because the idea is that there's joy in resistance, even in the face of tragedy. Overpass protests are a powerful way to fill up your activist cup. If you're feeling depleted, run down, out of energy, or hope to keep on going, go to an overpass protest. Being with like-minded people while hundreds of cars honk in support is inspiring. Sorry, I got muted. We'll be organizing many more overpass protests with Colorado Bridge Trolls in the future, so stay tuned. Solidarity Warriors demands for this protest and future ICE Out protests are ICE must immediately stop raiding neighborhoods and workplaces and disappearing our immigrant friends and neighbors. This must cease in Colorado and nationwide. Senators and representatives must not vote to approve a budget that continues to fund the outrageous and lawless acts of ICE without accountability for Renee Good's murder, significant ICE reforms, including body cameras, requiring judicial warrants before arresting immigrants, restrictions on the use of force, visible identification, and a ban on unmarked vehicles and masks. There have been at least 24 documented cases of serious crimes by ICE impersonators, including kidnapping, sexual assault, robbery and extortion, and other assaults and threats. These things wouldn't be possible if ICE agents were required to identify themselves. The fact that they can walk around without any kind of ID and wearing a mask means it's incredibly easy for someone to impersonate them. Our legislators should also push for a transparent investigation of Renee Good's death by the FBI and cooperation with the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, and support the ICE Out Act, which will be introduced soon by Representatives Dan Goldman and Eric Swalwell. The ICE Out Act changes the standard for qualified immunity for civil enforcement officers from a subjective test, which is based on what the officer felt and thought in the moment, to an objective test, which is based on what a reasonable person would have done in the situation. And if an officer is acting completely outside their normal duties and responsibilities, they won't have immunity from a civil lawsuit or criminal charges. There was also another large protest with several hundred people outside the ICE office in Centennial on Sunday, which was organized by General Strike US. Kevin shot and edited a video of the Centennial protest. It's powerful and includes speeches from one of the organizers, Dane of General Strike, and also Jeanette Vizquera. So I'll put a link to that video in the chat. And the next protest this Saturday, called One Year is Enough, No ICE, No War, No Trump, is organized by DenCat. Sean, if you have that flyer handy, will you throw that up in the chat? We'll be there tabling with our Solidarity Warriors tent if you'd like to get more info or pick up some hats, t-shirts, and stickers. And this will be followed by a Colorado Bridge Trolls dance party at the Capitol steps from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. There is a no concentration camps in Colorado protest at the correctional facility in Hudson, Colorado, next Wednesday, the 21st at 4:30 p.m. And Jeanette Vizquera will be speaking there. They're looking for safety marshals. If you've been trained as a safety marshal and you can make it, please email me. I'll drop my email here in the chat. And Renee Good's murder is not the first shooting or even murder committed by ICE agents. Just since the beginning of the Trump administration, there have been at least 7 confirmed shootings involving ICE agents. In September, Silverio Villegas Gonzalez, a 38-year-old immigrant who had been here for 20 years with no criminal record, was shot and killed by an ICE agent after a traffic stop during Operation Midway Blitz. DHS also claimed in this case that Silverio rammed and dragged an ICE officer a significant distance with his car during the traffic stop in Franklin Park, Illinois. However, when the body cam footage was released, the ICE officer described his injuries as minor, and they failed to show footage of the officer being dragged by the car. 2025 was also ICE's deadliest year in about 2 decades. At least 32 people died in ICE custody. Here's a link to an article about those 32 people. Virginia, that's a good question. How to get trained as a safety marshal. There are regular online and in-person trainings that we will include in our newsletter. It'll always be in the upcoming trainings section. I don't know of any coming up in the near future, but we'll always include those in that newsletter. And we know through firsthand accounts from the Geo ICE detention facility in Aurora that they often deny medical care, medication, and have even thrown away meals for people who are too sick to walk to get them, as an unknown illness was widely reported inside the facility recently. You can click this link in the chat to email Governor Polis, the CDPHE Director, Jill Hunsaker Ryan, and the Adams County Commissioners and demand immediate action on the dangerous conditions inside the Geo detention facility. There's a template provided, but please add a sentence or two about why it matters to you. Less than 2 days after Immigration and Customs Enforcement agent Jonathan Ross murdered Renee Good, the Department of Homeland Security's official Instagram account made a recruitment post proclaiming, "We'll have our home again." They attached a song of the same name by Pine Tree Riots, which was popularized in neo-Nazi spaces. The track features lines about reclaiming our home by blood or sweat, which is language often used in white nationalist calls for race war. This is just further evidence of the administration's dangerous and racist push toward white nationalism. And on Sunday evening, Trump was asked by a reporter if he believed deadly force was necessary in the shooting of Renee Good. And he said it was highly disrespectful of law enforcement. The woman and her friend were highly disrespectful of law enforcement. He's implying that disrespecting law enforcement alone justified her murder. And then yesterday, 6 career federal prosecutors in Minnesota resigned after Pam Bondi's DOJ pushed for an investigation into Becca Good, the widow of Renee Good. The investigation allegedly centers on any possible ties to activist groups that she may have, including acting as a legal observer, which is, of course, protected First Amendment activity. I want to say thank you to all of the observers and community members who are literally putting their lives on the line to protect their neighbors. I also saw today that the uh, Department of Justice Civil Rights Division that typically investigates whether something was an excessive use of force has decided not to investigate. And 4 of the major leaders in that department quit over that decision as well. Events like Renee's murder may make you feel helpless, but you're not helpless. As Ash said on the Indivisible Rapid Response call last week, despair is a choice. You are not alone. The thousands, if not millions, of people who took to the streets last weekend and the 150 people on this call tonight should show you that. If you don't feel safe going out on the streets with a whistle right now, that's okay. And if you do, bless you. I want to take a moment to read you the statement of Becca Good that she posted about her wife, Renee. I'll put a link to that in the chat as well. She said, "First, I want to extend my gratitude to all the people who have reached out from across the country and around the world to support our family. This kindness of strangers is the most fitting tribute because if you ever encountered my wife, Renee Nicole Macklin Good, you know that above all else, she was kind. In fact, kindness radiated out of her. Renee sparkled. She literally sparkled. I mean, she didn't wear glitter, but I swear she had sparkles coming out of her pores all the time. You might think it was just my love talking, but her family said the same thing. Renee was made of sunshine. Renee lived by an overarching belief. There is kindness in the world, and we need to do everything we can to find it where it resides and nurture it where it needs to grow. Renee was a Christian who knew that all religions teach the same essential truth. We are here to love each other, care for each other, and keep each other safe and whole. Like people who have done across place and time, we moved to make a better life for ourselves. We chose Minnesota to make our home. Our whole extended road trip here, we held hands in the car while our son drew all over the windows to pass the time and the miles. What we found when we got here was a vibrant and welcoming community. We made friends and spread joy. And while any place we were together was home, there was a strong shared sense here in Minneapolis that we were looking out for each other here. Here, I had finally found peace and safe harbor. And that was taken from me forever. We are raising our son to believe that no matter where you come from or what you look like, all of us deserve compassion and kindness. Renee lived this belief every day. She is pure love. She is pure joy. She is pure sunshine. On Wednesday, January 7th, we stopped to support our neighbors. We had whistles. They had guns. Renee leaves behind 3 extraordinary children. The youngest is just 6 years old and already lost his father. I am now left to raise our son and to continue teaching him, as Renee believed, that there are people building a better world for him, that the people who did this had fear and anger in their hearts, and we need to show them a better way. We thank you for the privacy you're granting our family as we grieve. We thank you for ensuring that Renee's legacy is one of kindness and love. We honor her memory by living her values, rejecting hate and choosing compassion, turning away from fear and pursuing peace, refusing division and knowing we must come together to build a world where we all come home safe to the people we love. Your first call to action tonight: call your senators and representatives to stop ICE's aggressive attacks on immigrants and citizens. They must demand a full investigation of ICE agents' indiscriminate use of deadly force against protesters, and refuse to pass a DHS appropriations bill that fully funds ICE or Border Patrol, that doesn't seriously strengthen restrictions on ICE and their deployment to our cities, and reject their ever expanding mandate, and call for the impeachment of Kristi Noem as Secretary of Homeland Security. There's a script available from 5 calls. I'll put a link to that in the chat, or you can use the 5 calls app on your phone. If you haven't used 5 calls before, it's a great tool that gives you top issues and scripts to use when you contact your legislators, and links to their phone numbers. You can also order free whistles from the Solidarity Warriors website if you are in Colorado or anywhere in the country. If you're in Colorado, you can print out immigration resources from the folder I just put in the
We already
chat
made her olive
to
oil.
make whistle kits. Sorry, one second, everybody.
We still have olive oil. Oh, isn't there some in there?
If y'all could keep yourselves muted, that would be much appreciated. So if you're in Colorado, there are resources that you can print out and instructions for assembling whistle kits to distribute to the community. Please be patient. The whistles are back ordered. There's a network of folks with 3D printers who are producing them as fast as they can. If you or someone you trust owns a 3D printer and can help us make whistles, please email me. The group that I work with can help get you started. And I'll put my email in the chat here one more time. And then once again, here's the link if you would like to donate to the Free Whistle Project. One of our members also had a great suggestion that they heard on another call. Let's all put a candle in our window to remember Renee and show solidarity in resisting ICE and the administration. It'll be empowering to see the numbers grow across the country. Personally, I recommend a battery-powered candle because I fell asleep with a candle burning once and almost burned my house down. Right before this meeting started, someone also sent some very important leaked documents from ICE. I haven't had time to review them, but I'll put the link in the chat for you to take a look at. And now Dana has an exciting announcement and will share an important action that you can take. Go for it, Dana.
Hi, everybody. First of all, I would like to thank Solidarity Warriors for the incredible work that you have done in the last year. You are relentless and you are so helpful to us, and you just are amazing, and we're all so grateful for you. The other thing I wanted to say is I had a friend that went to an ICE Out for Good vigil in Colorado Springs, and one of Renee Good's teachers was there and told the group that Renee had been voted the kindest person in her high school. Yeah. So let's get on to Key Lime Air. So a lot of you might know that Key Lime Air is a Colorado-based company that has been contracting with ICE to transport detainees. We have been working for the last couple of months hard on this. And if anybody wants to talk more about it, please email me. But we launched an email campaign today, which I think Tiffany's going to put a link in the chat about. And we are okay, this is my intention, y'all. I've put it out to the universe, like conjuring this up. By the end of this week, that Key Lime is going to decide not to transport ICE detainees anymore. It's just my intention. Join me in my intention that this happens. But we are this email campaign that you can click on right now and send. We're hoping to get thousands and thousands and thousands of people across the country to email the leadership at Key Lime. And we have already gotten it across the country in very different ways. And this particular link to an Action Network email, please take the time to click on it and help us get to my intention of Key Lime deciding, along with, because Avello Airlines already decided last week that they weren't going to carry detainees anymore. So if Avello Airlines can do it, so can Key Lime. So let's do this thing. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Dana. Let's do it. All right, so Colorado has been working fast and furious to follow Chicago's lead in dispersing whistle kits and resources throughout the state. Linda is going to explain what that looks like here in Colorado. If you're outside of Colorado, you can look at implementing something in your state, even if it's on a smaller scale, and ask questions about it during the Q&A portion. Once Linda is done, or feel free to put those questions in the chat while she's speaking, and we will pose them to her when she's done. Go for it, Linda.
Hi, guys. I want to ditto what Dana shared. Anytime I think I'm a little bit tired, I think of Tiffany and Solidarity Warriors, and I feel shame. But anyway, I'm also not one who loves the spotlight, so being here tonight, go figure. But anyway, this is an important topic, I think, and I know we've been at war with a lot of different things, but I want to talk about one way that we can make a difference against ICE. So a group of us came together and formed We Keep Us Safe Colorado. And basically, we're a grassroots initiative to help Colorado volunteers organize proactively and effectively to protect our community members from being inhumanely kidnapped by ICE. So what we're doing is we're building networks to distribute free bilingual informational kits and whistles and sharing them, not only throughout Metro Denver, but also the state once we get community consent. So again, just to kind of sum that up, we're building and dispersing whistle kits and resources for vulnerable communities, but we're using established protocols to do this. So the protocols of We Keep Us Safe were all developed based on what people were doing in, for instance, Chicago and Charlotte. So they've been proven to be effective, and we're keeping our fingers crossed that that remains the same here. It's very likely, perhaps, that as We Keep Us Safe, we change those protocols as we gather more information. Let's see. I think Patty or Bridget was going to put the We Keep Us Safe website in the chat. So if you want to take a look at that, it's honestly, I didn't have anything to do with making it, but it's one of my favorite websites because I just think it's so user friendly. So I hope that you can check that out later on. So in the website, I mean, there's lots of different links. Some include the zine that are used in the whistle kits that are specific to Colorado and our resources, including corn. They have a training calendar. They have a sign up form if you want to volunteer with us, and then also ways to donate materials, whistles, etc., etc. One of the first things that we ask people to do when they get involved with us is to take a training. I know you've all heard of CORN, Colorado Rapid Response Network, and their confirmer training, you guys, is super, super, super useful to take before you hit the sidewalks with whistle kits. Let's see, if you could go back, Tiffany, sorry. Let me see. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Thank you. So yeah, a training, the confirmer training through CORN is great. We keep us safe. We also have a community defense training that we offer, both in person and by Zoom. And I know that Aurora Unidos also puts on really good trainings as well. So these are, yeah, community defense trainings. So what to do when you see ice, how you call CORN or whatever your rapid response network is in your area, and then blowing your whistles, and then videotaping and narrating what you're observing from ice. The next thing that you're going to want to consider is, because we don't ever recommend anybody doing this on their own. I would say that you always need to have at least a partner, if not more, but you're going to connect with local folks who can help you distribute the kits and build that community. So what I mean by that is you're going to connect with your local leaders, other immigrant-led organizations, nonprofits, business owners, lawyers, pastors, and you're going to find out from them, in their opinion, what the community wants and needs. We don't want to come across as you have to accept a whistle kit. And there are definitely situations or neighborhoods and communities where you probably wouldn't disperse a whistle kit, but we'll talk a little bit about that more in a second. So yeah, where to start? So you're going to find out what the community wants and needs. That may involve you guys going door-to-door canvassing in your community or a community in which you have connection to, or perhaps you're handing out kits at businesses. I know we have a business Know Your Rights team through IPT and Indivisible Denver. What is it? Denver. Denver is a.
Indivisible Denver Action,
Thank
I
you.
think.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Thank you. So those folks are interested in getting their hands on our whistle kits as well. We're working with them. Some other places that we're exploring dispersing the kits are, for instance, apartment complexes. We have several friends who live in apartment complexes in the area, and so we have connected with them and asked if they're interested in having those dispersed throughout their community. It might be a place of worship. It could be a school. I, for instance, have some connections to the schools as a retired counselor. Universities, colleges, you guys, laundromats, car washes, parks. So those are just a few ideas for where you might want to seek a connection and to disperse. But again, you want to check in first that your action is wanted in that area, in that neighborhood, in that setting. So it may be that some communities would rather you not disperse whistle kits. So you want to respect that, but you also can consider or ask them if it would be okay to disperse. Sort of, we have a zine that is more for, those less impacted or those privileged neighborhoods and communities that don't include a whistle, but explain to people about how to identify ICE, how to video ICE, how to call corn, etc. So that is also a resource that's included on the website. So some of the links you'll see, this is directly from the website, what Tiffany is sharing there. So yeah, there's canvassing tips. It talks about the whistle kit materials. Those materials all are also available to be edited if you don't live in Colorado or Denver. I'm not sure what that one is. I don't think, okay. Yeah, I don't know how that one got in there. But anyway, yeah, Tiffany, could you go to the next one? The next slide? Okay. So I'm going to show a slide in just a minute about the materials that we use as part of Denver Immigrant Partnership's Whistle Brigade. So we are working with We Keep Us Safe, and our members of IPT are working as a group to disperse these kits and resources throughout Denver proper. So we started a little organization. There's about 40 of us so far. We're building the whistle kits and gatherings. And then we're tracking where we are dispersing them and also providing training to our people. So there's a QR code there on your screen. If you live in Denver and you have interest in joining the IPT Public Action Whistle Brigade, you can use that link. And if you're not in Denver, again, I should have mentioned earlier, there's a QR code and an interest form on the We Keep Us Safe website as well, if you want to connect with those people, which I hope you do. Let's see, next slide. Let's see what we got here. Okay, so this would be your basic whistle kit that we build. And you can certainly add other materials. For instance, besides these, there's another sheet, a quarter sheet, size sheet, that we're going to start including that explains how to identify ICE. The more we can not put out false alarms, the better. I think Corn would totally appreciate that. But what's included is a zine, the whistle, of course. We have this quarter-size resource page that has multiple QR codes on it to different organizations that can help the vulnerable. And then we also include the red card, Know Your Rights red card. So really, that's what I was wanting to cover today, unless anybody wants to add anything that I may have missed, or have any questions.
So Linda, can I jump in with
Yeah.
a couple things? So there was a question about why the need for the whistle kits. Do you want to address that a little bit? And then there are two more slides about, for folks who aren't in Denver, how they can connect and use these resources.
Okay. So the why, I think I touched on briefly, but Patty, please jump in. I think I explained that they have been proven useful in other cities and communities throughout the United States in pushing back against ICE and letting the communities know that ICE has been um, has been cited nearby, and perhaps they're even arresting people. So there are different ways to blow the whistle depending on that situation that it's explained on the website. What else, Patty?
I think their question was specifically like, why do I need a kit? Can't I just buy a whistle? And not to put words in your mouth, but it seems like it's more about distributing these to people in the community rather than having one for yourself.
Right. Well, we touched on briefly that what We Keep Us Safe has done has really established these protocols about how to use the whistle and the whistle kit. And again, based on past actions that have proven to be effective throughout the country. So there's a lot more to do besides just blow your whistle. As I mentioned, you want to make sure that you are contacting CORN or whatever rapid response network that you have ties to in your area. And it also explains to you how to videotape and narrate what you're seeing. It goes into at least the training does, for sure. The training and the zine talks a little bit about um, what information you want to glean from the person who's being targeted. Normally, you're not going to ask their name in front of ICE because they have the right to remain silent, and you're going to remind them of that as an observer. Um, and you're also going to try to get a contact of theirs, a loved one, a friend, maybe a first name and a telephone number, so that then after the fact, you can call that person and let them know what you witnessed. I think, only if, for instance, the person doesn't have a connection like that, a friend or a family member or a loved one, only then would you ask for their name and their date of birth, and you're going to share that information with CORN. Did that cover what? Did that cover?
Yeah, the only other thing I'd add is I think there's been a lot of conversation about the pros and cons of whistles, and the concept is really we're trying to keep ICE from actually being able to abduct people. And so if we can make noise when ICE is present so that people who are vulnerable can go into their homes or somewhere safe that's not a public area that ICE is allowed to enter without a warrant. And those of us who are not vulnerable can be out where ICE is and in a safe way, as you are trained to do when you're a CORN confirmer or if you do the community defense training, to be able to slow ICE down from doing what they want to do. And so that's the idea with these whistle kits, is to build awareness within communities where there are targeted populations, that this is a strategy to help people be protected. And then we also get it out to communities that don't have a high population of people who could be targeted, because we're going to be seeing this everywhere. And, people are seeing workers, in their front yards being approached by ICE and being abducted. And so we all need to be prepared to deal with this. I just saw a question in the chat about who CORN is, the Colorado Rapid Response Network. Tiffany just put it up. It's the statewide network for reporting ICE activity. And we have confirmers all over the state who actually go out when there are calls of possible ICE activity. So that's another very important resource that we connect with all the time, and it's on all of our materials and is how we are continuing to keep our community safe. I hope that helps.
Did you want me to bring up the other slides?
Sure. So on the We Keep Us Safe website, you'll see the link to fill out an interest form if you would like more connection with the team. And then I'm not sure. What's the next one? What's the next slide? Oh yeah, and so I mentioned this, but if you're not in Colorado, still check out the resources, because as I explained, these resources are editable. Did I say edible? Editable. um, and able to be changed depending on where you live and where you are wanting to protect.
And we don't post the editable files, at least we haven't yet, but if you want them, just email us at the email there, info@wkus-co.org, or the contact link on the webpage.
So you guys, I want to add to that, all this, the We Keep Us Safe, those people have worked tirelessly, and I have been sort of on the periphery of it compared to others, but all of this has been put together within the last couple months, and just kudos to my colleagues.
Someone just asked if there is anything going on to keep the ICE detention center out of Hudson. So I just put the flyer there. There is a protest outside the Hudson Correctional Facility next Wednesday, the 21st, starting at 4:30 p.m. And Jeanette Visciera will be speaking at that protest.
One other thing too, before I sign off, and I'll be quiet. So I read you guys yesterday this technique, and I want to share it with you because I was actually trying it before I became live on the Zoom call. But this is a technique that EMTs and other emergency personnel use, and it reduces your cortisol levels by 65%, supposedly. But what you do is you hum with your mouth closed for 2 minutes straight. And of course, you have to take breaths, but so anyway, yeah, give it a try.
All right. Jeffrey, did you have a question for Linda?
More like a suggestion to what you said before, Tiffany, to you about the venting our anger.
Uh-huh.
I propose that you guys download the app, Kick the Buddy, and take out your anger and frustration on Buddy, pretending that he's Donald Trump.
All
And
right.
if you can, record your actions on there, and upload it to social media so you could see how much you did how much you feel your feel towards this, how you feel towards him and all that, and all of the injustice and all the bad stuff he's doing.
I think that's a great idea. Thanks.
I'm doing it.
Um,
I'm doing it myself.
nice.
I'm gonna-
And Morgan, were you keeping a list of questions that came up while Linda was speaking?
Yeah, most of them have been covered there. Why do we need a kit? Why not buy a whistle? And, is there a list of people who've been killed by ICE? And there was some discussion in the chat about how it's hard to get an accurate list, but there are several places that people are putting together. Tiffany, I don't know if you have a good resource
Yeah,
for
so
that.
I have two articles. I have the article about the 32 people who were died in ICE custody in just the last year alone. And I'll drop that one again. And then so far, as far as confirmed people who were killed by ICE, the only two I found were Renee Good and Silverio Villegas Gonzalez, who was the immigrant who was shot and killed in September. All right. Well, were there any other questions about anything we spoke about tonight? I'm gonna take a minute to drop some flyers in the chat for upcoming events.
I was going to talk about the stuff I usually do and welcome the new people and give them a little bit of, my rundown of what we do. So
Okay.
I can take that for a minute. First of all, welcome to everybody who is new. We are Solidarity Warriors. As Tiffany said, we are an action-driven, indivisible group. But as you can see, we are unlike any indivisible group. We have these weekly Zoom meetings where we focus on things that you can go out and do. We started when there was no movement, building the movement, and then teaching people how to go out and do things to resist the administration. Everything from starting your own group to planning protests, attending protests, everything you need to know. Every week we do a different topic that's going to be relevant with action items that you can go out and do, whether you're in a red state or a blue state. One of the things that makes us different is we do have this national reach to us. With that being said, every week I like to give people something direct to do. Fortunately, this week it's already been covered, and that is we are part of the End ICE Flights Coalition, and they gave a good email to send to the Key Lime directors to get them to stop doing these flights. Why are we doing this? Because of Velo Airlines, which isn't as directly connected to Colorado, but has been nonetheless doing these ICE flights, decided that they didn't want to participate. So now we're trying to put the pressure on Key Lime to go ahead and do that. I'll be with you in just a minute, Aaron. And then finally, I like to also kind of give something I'm keeping my eye on that people may be missing. And for this week, I want to point out that all of the chaos and all of the whiplash that's going on, the Venezuelas, the Greenlands, the ICE killings, all of those things are by design to keep us on our back foot and not focused on what we need to be doing. And I want to point out in all of this that there's something that we haven't heard of in a week now. And that's the Epstein files that the DOJ failed to comply with the laws to supply. And it's not that I want to put something else on your plate to keep going after. We need to keep track of all of these things and make sure that they aren't getting forgotten in the rush to address the next big fire, because they're coming, they're going to continue coming. And we need to keep our heads on straight about what our goals are and what we're working towards. So go ahead, Aaron, what's your question? Or Richard, whoever you are.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's me and my dad. We're watching. I just wanted to bring your attention to the chat. I've been talking to other groups around the country about rapid response, and one of the best ones I've found is North Carolina's Siembra, and they were really on the spot as soon as ICE and Border Patrol showed up. So I put a toolkit in the chat, and I'm just trying to gather. I've already done a couple rapid response trainings here in Tulsa, and I'm trying to create our own so we can move it around. So this is one of the best tools I've found, and I just appreciate you guys so much. We love Colorado.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And in the same vein, and talking about North Carolina and Tulsa, it is noticeable that these ICE raids are not happening in red states. That's not an accident. Don't miss out on the fact that this is political retribution. It's not actually going out and looking for people who are breaking the law. Like these are the things that we need to keep in mind when we're looking at actions and things to do. And also keep in mind, ICE has a very specific mandate. It is immigration and customs enforcement. They aren't supposed to be on the streets policing protests. They're not trained to do it. They don't know how to do it, especially with the people that they've been bringing on so rapidly. This isn't the way it's supposed to be. This is not normal, and don't think it is. And so keep in mind all of these things when you approach how to react to them and what's going on and what to do next.
Morgan, direct response. I'd just like to say that ICE has been active in Tulsa for as long as I can remember, probably at least 30 years. And they don't do like the show of force violence that they're doing in other places, but they're arresting a lot of people every day. It's happening everywhere. Some places are just more quiet. And one of the things about the red states is the media isn't really covering it as much. But everybody is under threat. Yeah, they're getting a lot of cooperation. Like the sheriff's office cooperates, the highway patrol. So it's not as in your face, but I pray for everybody that's going through this, and it's going to be all of us eventually. So thank you so much for all of your activism and just stewardship for the American people.
You are very welcome, and that is why we do what we do. And to follow that up, next week we are going to have a presentation, Tiffany, correct? Blue and red?
Yeah, so next week we're going to talk about the different things that you can do and how we approach Democrat-controlled states differently from Republican-controlled states, and give you some ideas for your state and what you can do there. And let me drop that link to sign up in the chat.
And just to follow up, just because you're blue living in a red state doesn't mean there's nothing you can do and you should despair. There are more people out there than you think, and we'll talk next week about how to connect with them and things that you can do very specifically.
Hold up, I want to interrupt you right there. What about if you're blue living in a blue state, or red living in a blue state? Is there something you can still do?
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things we're going to cover, because there's a lot of us who are blue living in a blue state, like where a lot of us are here in Colorado, where we've got Democratic governor, attorney general, senators. So I think over half our representatives are Democrats as well. So yes, we're going to cover what you can do if you're blue in a blue state as well.
If you're red in a blue state, you can follow along as well. You just may not agree with as much.
All right. Well, if there are no other questions, I want to say thank you so much to Linda and Patty and Dana for being here tonight. And we'll send out an email tomorrow. Linda or Patty, is it okay if we send out a link to the slideshow?
May I make a little suggestion
Okay.
first before you hang up?
Linda's nodding her head. Yes, go ahead, Jeffrey.
Like I told you about the kick the buddy. If someone asked where you could find that, you know, you can find it on the Apple App Store.
Okay.
If you,
It's
because
just
it's an
called Kick the Buddy.
yeah. Well, they should make a version of it called Kick the Trump.
You're right. They should.
Take out your frustrations all out on instead of on the real thing. 'Cause after all,
Yep.
because the last thing we want is for him to be martyred. That's the last
Yeah,
thing we want.
exactly. All
That
right.
we want to see him
Oh,
go down in disgrace, not
yep,
shut down and become a hero to his followers.
exactly. Yep, we're completely nonviolent, so we don't condone any real world violence, but I think Kick the Buddy app is okay.
Amen.
Yeah, that
Thank you all.
so
Thank you.
so if you want to find it, go to the Apple App Store and type in "Kick the Buddy" and you'll get it. And if you can, I did I do have a picture of Donald Trump's face that you can add on Buddy.
Jeffrey, do
want
you want
that.
to call me later? Thank you guys so much tonight. I appreciate y'all.
I
All
was
right,
gonna
thank
suggest you
you.
can't
Bye,
you can get it,
everyone.
but for a
Have a good
Bye.
price. I was gonna suggest getting it, but for a price. Is that
Bye.
okay? Because I need to make a living myself.
Jeffrey, do you want
Understood.
to call me?
You call me.
Okay, sounds good, brother.
All right. Good night, everybody.